He didn't wait for permission. He didn't ask for applause. He stood up while others stayed silent. He walked into the storm, and the storm bowed before him. This is not just a man. This is Ibrahim Traoré, a name that's shaking the ground beneath corruption, colonialism, and cowardice. A name rising from Burkina Faso like thunder through silence. He is the youngest head of state in the world, not just in age, but in spirit. And yet, his words carry the gravity of an old warrior, the intensity of a soul who's walked through fire and came out with purpose. They told him to kneel. He stood. They told him to wait. He moved. They told him to obey. He roared. He doesn't smile for the camera. He doesn't chase the spotlight. He doesn't lead for luxury. He leads with conviction. And in a world full of polished lies, he chose truth in its rawest form. This speech is not just about one man. This is a message to a continent, and to every human soul that has been told they are too young, too poor, too black, too bold to rise. Burkina Faso found its lion, Africa found a spark, and the world has no idea what's coming next. He was not born with gold in his hands. He didn't inherit power, he earned it, with discipline, sacrifice, and the fire of a man who never forgot his people. Ibrahim Traoré was born in 1988, in a land that has long known suffering and long forgotten how to fight back. Burkina Faso, a nation rich in culture, but robbed of its dignity by corruption, by foreign manipulation, by fear dressed as politics. He studied hard, earned respect, and became a soldier. But not the kind who simply follows orders. No. He became the kind of soldier who studies the battlefield before the war, who listens before speaking, who watches as others chase status, then steps in when the system starts to fall apart. In 2022, when most people were still hiding behind excuses, he rose. He took leadership through a military transition, not for glory, but for justice, not for money, but to reclaim the soul of a broken nation. At just 34 years old, he stood before the world, calm, focused, direct. No fear in his voice, no hesitation in his eyes. He didn't come to make promises, he came to deliver results. In a time where leaders are too busy protecting their image, Traoré chose to protect his people. In a time where many leaders outsource their will to foreign hands, he said no more. He looked the system in the eye and told it to step aside, because he wasn't asking for change. He became the change. And the people? They didn't need a king. They needed a lion. That lion walked out of the shadows, and his name is now echoing across borders. From dusty villages to global headlines, Ibrahim Traoré is no longer just a leader of Burkina Faso. He's a symbol, a warning, a call to rise. In a world where justice is bought and loyalty is sold, Ibrahim Traoré stands like a mountain that cannot be moved. He doesn't just represent Burkina Faso, he represents the awakening of Africa, a continent long underestimated, now rising on the shoulders of leaders who no longer fear the truth. He doesn't give interviews for applause, he gives orders that shake the old systems. And while the world expected another puppet, they were handed a problem they can't control. Because Traoré doesn't speak in sound bites, he speaks in action. When foreign powers tried to pressure him, he didn't flinch. He didn't fold like paper leaders before him. He cut ties where necessary. He removed what was poisonous. He reclaimed control over what belonged to his people. He said, "No more foreign exploitation." He said, "Burkina Faso will stand on its own feet." That scared the world, because a truly independent Africa, an Africa with backbone, with unity, with leadership, is a threat to those who've profited from its weakness. And that's exactly why this man matters. He has become a mirror to every other leader on the continent, a mirror that demands honesty, a mirror that reflects the question, Are you here for power or for your people? The youth listen to him, not because of propaganda, but because he speaks their language, the language of struggle, the language of dignity, the language of truth. To the oppressed, he's a flame. To the manipulators, he's a storm. To history, he's a chapter being written in real time. So when people ask, why is the world watching this young leader from a small country? The answer is simple: because courage is contagious. And when one lion stands up, others remember they were never sheep. You see, the real war isn't always fought with guns. It's fought in boardrooms, in backdoor deals, in whispers of betrayal and silent submission. Corruption is a virus. It spreads quietly, infects deeply, and weakens nations from the inside out. And for decades it lived freely across Africa, unchecked, unchallenged, unbothered. But then came Ibrahim Traoré. He didn't just aim at foreign control, he aimed at internal decay. He looked inward, at systems that robbed the people, at elites who worshipped greed, at leaders who wore suits of honor but had hearts made of fear. And he declared something louder than any speech: this stops now. He didn't promise perfection, he promised war on corruption, and not with empty words, but with action. He stripped the titles from those who wore them like armor, but used them like weapons. He made it clear: if you serve only yourself, you will not serve in this nation. He put principle over politics, people over power. And in doing so, he began a transformation that didn't just threaten the corrupt, it terrified them. Because for the first time in a long time, integrity had teeth. Traoré didn't walk the path of popularity, he walked the road of accountability. And yes, it made enemies, it invited threats, it challenged alliances. But he didn't fold, he didn't compromise. He stood before the people and said, if I must die for this mission, so be it, but I will never bow to evil. That is not the language of a politician, that is the language of a revolutionary. And revolutions don't begin with armies. They begin with a single man who chooses truth, who dares to act, and who refuses to be broken by fear. Ibrahim Traoré understood this. You cannot liberate a nation by shaking hands with the ones who keep it in chains. So he became unshakable, not because he's fearless, but because he knows his purpose is greater than his life. There's a reason they call him the Lion of Africa. Because a lion doesn't beg, a lion doesn't explain, a lion doesn't apologize for its roar. A lion simply is. It walks in silence. It watches everything, and when the time comes, it strikes with purpose. That is Ibrahim Traoré. He doesn't speak often, but when he does, the room gets quiet, because his words don't come from a script. They come from a soul that carries a nation's pain and power in the same breath. In every continent, people are watching, some with hope, some with fear, but all with attention. Because this is what happens when a lion wakes up. The jungle changes. For years, Africa was seen as a wounded continent, torn by history, chained by exploitation, tricked by false leaders. But that image is breaking. Not just because of Traoré, but because of what he represents. A new generation, a new mindset, a new Africa. This lion is not just one man, he is a mirror, reflecting what lives in every African who's tired of begging for respect. Reflecting what lives in every youth who wants a future they don't have to flee from. Reflecting what lives in every soul who knows that silence is no longer strength. Action is. He didn't rise to be famous. He rose because the world needed to remember what real leadership looks like. Leadership that sacrifices, leadership that listens, leadership that doesn't run when the pressure comes. And let this be clear, this lion is not here to entertain. He is here to restore dignity. He is not playing politics. He is playing for history. So when they call him dangerous, understand what they're really saying. They're not afraid of his weapons. They're afraid of his spirit, because it can't be bought, tamed, or silenced. That's what happens when a lion roars. He doesn't just wake up his own pride, he shakes the entire kingdom. This is not just a moment for Burkina Faso. This is a message to all of Africa and to the world. Because every generation gets a choice, to kneel to the past or to stand and change the future. Traore has chosen. Now it's your turn. To the youth of Africa, you've been told your voice doesn't matter, that your dreams are too loud, that your power is too raw. But look at this man. He is you, born from nothing, raised in the fire. And still, he rose. Don't wait to be rescued. Don't wait for the perfect leader. Don't wait for the right time. Be the roar before the revolution. Be the fire before the freedom. Be the storm before the sunrise. To the leaders still hiding behind excuses, he's your wake-up call. He's your reminder that leadership is not about titles. It's about sacrifice, courage, and truth. To the world powers watching with fear, this isn't hate, this is healing, this isn't rebellion, this is restoration. Africa is not asking for permission anymore. It's demanding respect, not with violence, but with vision. And to every soul listening, wherever you are in the world, whether in struggle or silence, know this. The rise of Ibrahim Traoré is not the rise of one man. It is the rise of many. It is the beginning of a new era, one where the oppressed speak boldly, one where dignity cannot be negotiated, one where the lion does not just hunt, he leads. So the question is not, can one man make a difference? The question is, what will you do with the fire he lit inside you? The world has seen kings with golden crowns, presidents with polished speeches, generals with armies behind them, but rarely do we witness a man who walks into history with nothing but conviction and leaves a trail of awakening behind him. Ibrahim Traoré has no empire, he has no billion-dollar machine, he has no interest in pleasing the media or bowing to power. What he does have is truth in his chest, fire in his voice, and the will of his people in his hands. And that is worth more than 1,000 crowns. He is not perfect, he is not untouchable, he is not the final chapter, but he is the spark, and sparks ignite revolutions. One day, the history books will ask, when did the tide turn? When did the lion wake up? And the answer will echo through generations. When a man from Burkina Faso stood up alone, and the world could no longer look away. So if you're watching this from a phone in a small village, from a city drowning in doubt, from a country on the edge of giving up, let this voice reach you. You don't need permission to rise. You don't need a title to lead. You don't need the world's approval to walk in your purpose. You need only what Ibrahim Traoré showed us: unshakable belief, ruthless discipline, and a heart that refuses to kneel. This is InspireNation. This is your fire. This is the lion's roar, and the jungle will never be the same.